we always start with the famous Torah of the Arizal, that every time a Yontif comes, it is not only to commemorate what happened in the past, but really it happens again. Not only does it happen again, but it happens even stronger. Not only does it come stronger, but the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Igeres HaKodesh, 14th chapter, a tremendous chiddush, that the Alter Rebbe says that every time comes something so much stronger that it was never, ever in the history that kind of a or is what's going to happen this coming Shavuos. So we have to understand Matan Torah is going to happen this coming Shavuos in the strongest way that even the Yidden in the time of Matan Torah did not get what we're getting this coming year, Shavuos. So it gives a whole different sense of preparation, because we know that the Ran is from the Rishonim, who says that the Yidden, when they knew that they're going out of Mitzrayim in order to receive the Torah, they couldn't wait. And they prepared themselves and they counted. The Omer that we count now is related to the counting that the Yidden counted down, prepared themselves every day more and more for this great Matan Torah. So we can't just be here like yo-yos and go shopping for cheesecakes and blintzes and make sure we have. The main thing is preparing for Matan Torah, which is the greatest revelation that ever happened. As a matter of fact, it says in Chassidus, which needs a lot of clarification, but it doesn't matter. But Chassidus says there will not be another Matan Torah. Matan Torah is a one-time revelation that includes all revelations. There's something very, very important to mention, that without Chassidus, we really wouldn't have this tremendous appreciation of what happened by Matan Torah. Because on a simple level, we were given 10 commandments. We all heard it. We all saw. Okay, very important. But what's the major, what's the tumult? The question that Hasidus always asks is that nothing new was brought in on Matan Torah that was not known before Matan Torah. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov knew everything about the Jewish religion. Even Rashi on the Chumash says that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov not only knew everything, they observed everything. And they even observed rabbinical laws. Erev Tavshilin. Whatever that means is a separate talk, because none of the mitzvahs, hardly any mitzvahs, were observed in a physical way. But the information was known. So what's the big tumult? What's the big, the place was going on, the mountain was on fire, there was thundering, there was lightning, there was Don't ask what was going on there. It was like the world was going bananas. We knew all this. So what are we going to be celebrating? Shavuot, Hashem gave us the Torah. We knew it before. The answer really is, it was not the information that the Eibishter gave us that was the Chiddush. The Chiddush that the Eibishter gave is that he put himself into the mitzvahs, into the Torah. The Torah and mitzvahs before Matan Torah was not a command. They didn't have to do it. They did this because they knew about it and they wanted to do it. There is a Gemara, which we need to remember. The Gemara says it's greater to one who is commanded to do and does, rather than someone who is not commanded and yet does. Which doesn't really make sense. You would say just the opposite. It should be greater when you're not commanded and you do. Why is it more when you're commanded? Somebody is not commanded and he does, it should be a greater thing. So it's very interesting Torah psychology that the Torah says that when you're commanded to do, then you have a Yetzirah not to do. As long as you did this voluntarily, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov did this voluntarily, they didn't have any opposition because the Yetzirah wasn't so. You're not commanded anyways. Soon as you are commanded to do, and then you do, then you got already, you have a Yetzirah, oh, you're not doing that. That's the simple answer why it's greater to be commanded and yet to do. So you would say, that's the Chiddush of Matan Torah. That's the main thing, that before we were not commanded. It was something that we did voluntarily. But now that we were given the Torah, we have a command. But Hasidus takes this whole idea and with a whole different light. That what happened at Matan Torah is that Hashem gave us through the Torah. Number one, he put himself into the Torah. There's nothing more than Hashem. There's nothing greater than Hashem. And if he gave himself into the Torah, then the Torah could transform the physical world, the physical body and the physical world in every aspect of this world. The whole reason of why we are given the Torah, which is very important for us to know. If you don't learn Hasidus, you could get the impression, unfortunately, that the religion is a way to get you to go to Gan Eden, a means to get to Olam Haba. And you hear this in all the different shuls, in all the different places. We're here to get to Gan Eden. What Gan Eden? This is not what Hasidus says. The Eibishter created the world. He had a very specific plan. The plan is that with Torah and mitzvahs, we're going to make this physical world his condominium, his favorite place. But how is that going to happen? So God came up with an idea. He's going to give us mitzvahs, which every mitzvah you cannot observe without a body in the physical world. There's no mitzvah in the Torah that is purely with your soul. Every mitzvah cannot be observed without a body and without something in the physical world. And by observing the mitzvah, you are going to transform the physical world and your physical body and everything in the world. And by that, ultimately, this physical world will become the holiest place anywhere. So it's very, very interesting. We say this, but for people who learn Hasidus, it's a given. But I must tell you that it's really in the general, from religion, from Yidden, this is not something that is a given. The truth is that it's a medrash. It's a medrash tanchuma. Not everybody knows this medrash. And even if you know the medrash, only Hasidus says that that medrash is the most important line of everything. The medrash says these words, that Hashem had a desire to make this physical world his condominium. And that's why there is Torah and mitzvahs. It's interesting to note that not only does the Medrash mean that Hashem wants us to make this world his dwelling place, but there's a little catch here. It has to be b'tachtainim, in the lowest world, but it has to be from the tachtain. It has to come from our effort. We have to make it. We have to make this world for his dwelling place. And how? Through Torah and mitzvahs. So without Matan Torah, the whole purpose of the world would never come to happen. Because when you do things not as a tzivui, you don't have the power to change the world. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, as holy as they were, but they couldn't do the impossible. How can you take the physical world and transform it? Only Hashem, who could do the impossible, put that into the Torah. So that's one very important aspect. Basically, the whole purpose of creation finally happened by Matan Torah. Without that, the world is still not, the purpose of why he created the world is still hanging. Now, if you would ask, then why didn't God give the Torah earlier? If waited 2,000 years, if this is the whole plan. But the truth is, not one moment was wasted. Everything that happened till Matan Torah was a preparation to lead to Matan Torah. We had to perfect ourselves to the maximum of how much man could perfect himself. And that was Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and how they passed it on to the children. And even before Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, there were great tzaddikim. Every moment that happened before Matan Torah, not one moment was wasted. Everything was in the plan to prepare the world to refine itself without the power of the infinite. And then, when you did whatever you can, then Hashem says, and now I'm going to give you something that you could never do on your own. That is one very important aspect of Shavuot. So now, if we were to ask, just in quick, why was there thundering and lightning? Are you kidding? The question is not why there was thundering and lightning. The whole world, when God reveals himself, the impossible, the infinite God reveals himself. So what do you think should happen? There's nothing more powerful. So the world was going bananas. The creator, God revealed himself in the world. That's one aspect. The next very important aspect that we need to know, that when God said the 10 Commandments, Aseres HaDibros, he wasn't holding a sermon and he was just introducing himself. I am God, in case you want to know, my social security. I am the one who took you out of Mitzrayim, and I wanted. The Alter Rebbe says, hold on to your chairs. The Alter Rebbe says that when the Eibishter said Aseres HaDibros, he created, just like he created the world with words, he created the DNA of every neshama. He's put in ourselves the Torah. When Hashem said, I am God, your God, he created that he became ours. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am yours. You are, I put myself into you. And the Alter Rebbe says even further, there are commandments in the 10 Commandments, we all know. There are 2 tablets, and one of the tablets, the second tablets, are what we should not do. Lo signaif, lo sitzach, lo sinkaif, lo sachmait. The Alter Rebbe says this most fascinating thing. In Hebrew, when you want to say thou shalt not, or you want to say you will not, you will not. It's the same exact spelling. Lo signaif means, we all know, thou shalt not steal. But how do you say in Hebrew, you will not steal? The exact same spelling, the same exact vowels. Lo signaif means you will not steal. You will not murder. What does that mean? Says the Alter Rebbe, the Eibishter made that the DNA of all the neshamas is we cannot. That's who we are. So when Hashem said Aseres HaDibros, which includes the whole Torah, he wasn't giving a sermon. His talking, mate, that's who we are. We all know that a Yid from Matan Torah on, you could never give up your neshama. You could stand on your head. You could call yourself, you're converted, you are an atheist, you are agnostic, you're a turkey. You still are the same Jew. Why? Because God made you that way. He made you by Matan Torah. All Jews, all neshamas. Pirkei the Rabbi Lezer, which is like a medrash, says that every neshama that will ever be in the body were present at Matan Torah. Even converts were present by Matan Torah. Why? Why was it important for all of us to be there? Now it makes all sense. Because we had to be there, because he made us who we are. This was not just a nice experience. This experience made us who we are. This is very powerful. So when it comes this coming Shavuot, especially when the Aseres HaDibros are going to be read, we're not just going to stand there like yo-yos and hear, oh yeah, this is the 10 Commandments that Hashem says 3,000 years. It's going to happen again like never, ever before. That's who we are. It's going to be engraved in us. It's going to be a part of our neshama. The Torah becomes our essence more than ever before. Very interesting. I'm sure you heard this before. If you open up a sefer like Likutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe on a Maimah and Shavuos, and you see how the first Alter Rebbe from the first Chabad Rebbe, how he introduces Shavuos. Very interesting. The whole idea of the revelation of Sinai was a tremendous revelation of godliness came into the world. What does that mean in simple words? So he brings this down in very simple words. How do we view God, and how does God view us? So Chassidus says, how would we know? But Chassidus tells us. Chassidus says that the Eibishter is the real being, the true being, and he views everything is only nothingness. It's only a reflection. It's totally nothing compared to his greatness. He is the real Yesh, the real being, and everything besides him is ayin. How do we look at everything? How do we view ourselves? Exact opposite. We are the real thing, the real McCoy. That's what counts. This is that. Where, what? This is, people call the real world, which is, there's nothing more false than saying the real world. Because the Alter Rebbe says that the translation of the word world in Hebrew is olam. Olam is, it's hidden, it's a lie. It's the biggest lie that ever existed. We don't see what's reality. We think we are reality. So we view ourselves as the real thing. In spirituality, yeah, upstairs, yeah, but it's ayin. We don't know about it. It's ayin. And the Eibishter looks just the opposite. He is the real Yesh, and everything is ayin. We got a real problem over here. We're not seeing eye to eye. You ever hear somebody says, we're not really understanding each other. Eibishter says, you are ayin, I'm the Yesh, and I say, I'm the Yesh, and you're the ayin. It's called head-on collision. What happened by Matan Torah? Says the Alter Rebbe, we suddenly saw a different reality. We felt that the Eibishter is the Yesh, and we are ayin. Very interesting to remember this. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya about something that it says in the Torah of what happened by Matan Torah. Everybody knows Hashem said the Ten Commandments. Fantastic. What's the bottom line of what happened by Matan Torah? So there's a pasuk in the Chumash. Moshe Rabbeinu describes what happened by Matan Torah. The pasuk is in verse Hanan. We say this every Shabbos, right before we take out the Torah. I believe that the reason we say this, because Matan Torah happened on Shabbos. So because it happened on Shabbos, we talk about Matan Torah. But what does the pasuk say happened by Matan Torah? Says the Alter Rebbe, Ata, you Jews, Haresa, you are shown, Lodas, to know that Ki Hashem Hu Elikim Ein Oid Milvadoi. We say this and we don't even listen to what we say. The Torah says, what happened by Matan Torah? We saw that the only existence is Hashem. How did we see that? Well, the Ten Commandments, the Aseres HaDibros, came from the world. From every corner, every part of the world was saying, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. We saw Hashem didn't take us out of the world. We were on the physical world, on ground. And what did we see? That the world is God. There's no two things. There's a God and there's a world. The world is God. That's what happened by Matan Torah. The commandments that we heard was the tools, how to make the world permanently look like what we just saw. In other words, we talk about this very often. Probably you heard this before. A lot of times you go to a store and somebody wants to sell you a new product. So they have a sample. If it's a food, if it's a perfume, the samples here, take this. If you like it, you could buy it. The Alter Rebbe learns in Tanya Perik Lamed Vav that really, if somebody wants to say what happened by Matan Torah, what happened by Matan Torah is we saw that there's only God. The world is also God. Wait a minute, but there's commandments. No. What happened with Matan Torah is we witnessed that there's only God. But God gave us and said, listen, guys, you see what you just now saw? That's what the world is going to look like permanently through the mitzvahs I'm giving you. So that it's very clear. The commandments is to make what you just saw, that it should always be like that. Not just the Matan Torah, I don't know how long it took. Let's say it took a half hour, it took an hour, but then it was over. Hashem said, but what you just now saw is reality that will happen. But the way to make that happen permanently is through Torah mitzvahs. This is a whole new eye-opener. So when we're going to Shavuot and we're getting prepared for Matan Torah, we got to understand what is Matan Torah. Matan Torah meant that the Eibishter revealed the unity of Hashem. Hashem is Echad. There's no two. There's a world and there's a God, and He's the life of the world or the exist. The world is God. There's no only God. That's what was Matan Torah. And the tools for this to stay like that forever, that's what Torah mitzvahs is all about. I'm just sharing with you how different Shavuot is according to Chassidus. It's a reality check. Matan Torah was a reality check of what's the truth. Never did the world, never was there a revelation in the world how God really looks at the world. It was always our perception. But the purpose of it is that it has to change. And that's what we all begged Hashem on Rosh Hashanah in every Shmoneh Esrei, but we don't even listen to what we're saying. The Shmoneh Esrei was, we're begging you, God, to bring Mashiach. So then when he will come, we will see that you're the creator. And everything we said in the davening spelled out is what we saw by Matan Torah. Okay, so let's go on. There's so much to talk about Matan Torah that we could go on for hours and hours and hours, but we're just going to pick some points. When you read the Torah, we read the story in the Chumash, it doesn't say a word that the Yidden responded. You could think they were there like yo-yos. Their soul popped out. Hashem had to resurrect them 10 times, okay? But what did they do there? They just stood there. You open up the Mechilta. Not everybody opens up a Mechilta, but we know this from many places, that they had to respond. Hashem said a commandment. I want to hear what you have to say. Are you interested? Is it for you? Not for you? See you later. Call me at the office. What did the Jews do? So the Mechilta says that there's a machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Everybody's in agreement that they had to respond. The question is, what did they respond? So Rabbi Shmuel says, being that in the 10 Commandments there are the positive and the negative. I am God, your God, keep Shabbos, respect your parents. Those are the positive. So Rabbi Shmuel says they answered yes. When Hashem said, thou shalt not steal, they said no. They had to respond. Are you planning to listen, or what are you planning to do? Comes Rabbi Akiva and he argues and he says, no. They didn't say no on no. When Hashem said on the lo signoif, lo sitzach, they said yes. Are you kidding? I told you no, you're telling me yes. What's going on here? So what's the pshat? They didn't mean yes, we're not. Yes, we will listen and not do. So what's the argument? Rabbi Shmuel says they said no on no. Rabbi Akiva says they said yeah on no. So what's the argument? And this is a very serious argument. Rabbi Akiva is adamant no. They said yes. I tell you no, you tell me yes. Okay, yes, you'll listen. So what's the difference between saying yes on no, or saying no on no? If you mean yes, I'm not going to do it. So the explanation is there are two different ways how you can relate to negative commandments. Both are right, but it's two different ways of looking at things. You could look at an Aveira that this is the most disgusting, the most terrible thing to do. What it does to you, what it pollutes the world, what it does, it's a negative like there's no tomorrow. That's one approach. But there is a higher approach, a deeper approach, that everything is positive, because the negative is another way to connect to Hashem. A mitzvah, as we always talk about, a mitzvah means connection, uniting with Hashem. So if it's no, if I stay away from committing an avera, I'm becoming united to Hashem. It's a yes. There's no no's. So Rabbi Akiva feels that the Yidden by Matan Torah were on such a high madrega that when they heard the negative commandments, they didn't concentrate or take it. Yes, this is a terrible thing to do an avera. They felt this is yes, it's something positive. We all go through tests. Every single one of us have many tests in our lives. Matter of fact, in Chassidus it says, very interesting, but the Alter Rebbe says this in the Likutei Torah, that the only reason we came down in this world is for tests. Very unusual, but that's what he says. So it's not a side little thing, oh, we go through some tests. The Alter Rebbe said that's the only reason you came down, to overcome tests. Now, again, a test you could look in two ways. You could say, oh, is this a terrible thing what I had to go through? This was just unbearable, and this was, then there's another way, a higher way to look at this. This was all a positive to get me even closer to Hashem. It says in Chassidus that it says in the Torah, the wording, when Hashem tests us, it says, he tests us to know. Literally, it sounds like he tests us to know what you're going to do. So all the commentaries ask, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Hashem knows before he tests us. How can it say in the Torah he tests us to know? He needs to find out from a test. He doesn't know what, he knows who we are before the test. He also knows the future. It doesn't make any sense. What means he to know? Comes Chassidus and says that Lodas does not go on Hashem. It goes on the person who passed the test. When a person overcomes a test, he comes to a much deeper understanding of godliness. Lodas is for the person to come to Lodas, not for the Hashem to have Lodas. So you could look at a test in two ways. It was a terrible experience. What does Hashem want for my life? It's negative. But there's another whole way. Hashem loves you to pieces. And he wants to get you even closer than you are before. So he's giving you an opportunity to get to Ladas. So this is what it means when they Yidden heard, thou shall not, shall not, shall. This is all positive. So they felt it's positive and they responded, yes, we see the positive of all these licenses. So this is another very interesting way of what we're supposed to be doing on Shavuot. What should we be working on ourselves on Shavuot? Hashem is giving the Torah to each and every one of us individually. It says in the Medrash that the Torah says, I am God, your God, Loshin Yochid. Every single Yid, Hashem is revealing himself to us privately. Not only that, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that a Yid is supposed to think that everything that was created was only for you. Hashem puts everyone on the side. Every other he's not interested in any yo. And Torah doesn't say words that are just nice words. It's the tachlis ha'emes, that everyone to Hashem is like the only one. So Hashem is going to want to see, what are you planning to do with the Shavuot? Besides the blintzes, and I'm sure you're going to have the cheesecake and everything is going to be hunky-dory. But what are you doing? Hashem says, I want to hear from you. I need a response. Yes, no, maybe. I'll see you in the office. We have to respond to this incredible revelation that is going to happen with Hashem's coming Shavuos. One more point. The Torah says that when the Eibishter spoke the 10 Commandments, the Pasuk says all the Yidden saw the Kailas. Saw, excuse me. It should say they heard. I mean, saw. Says the Mechilta, yes. They saw what usually they heard, and they heard what they usually saw. What in the world does that mean? So the Rebbe explains this in this most incredible way, which is in line to what everything we talked about. What by us is called reality, and what to us is hearsay. Well, for me, this physical world, this is reality. Ruchnius, godliness, this is, it's nice, it's very nice, fascinating, but that's not my reality. That's hearsay. What happened by Matan Torah is our perception, our reality changed. That what was always hearsay became what we saw, reality. And the physical world became secondary. That became hearsay. I'm sure you heard this before, that the holy Baditcheva Rav, who was always defending the Jewish people, once complained to Hashem, and he said, Hashem, you got the whole thing upside down. You put the spirituality in the Svarim, and you put all the temptations in front of our eyes. How about changing that? Put the temptations in the Svarim, and put yourself in front of our eyes. I guarantee you we'll all be perfect. You don't think Hashem couldn't figure that out? But that's the whole purpose of this life. He's going to hide, and we have to find him. So this is what it means that Bashas Matan Torah, they saw the voices. They saw what was always voices. They saw a different reality that was always hearsay. That was their reality. So I want to wish everyone, we should start working on Shavuot now, because it's getting late. It's going to happen if we're ready or we're not ready. But the blessing that we give ourselves before Shavuot is that Hashem should bless us, that we should receive the Torah. The Eibishter Matan Torah is coming if you like it or you don't like it. But where are you going to be? Are you going to be makabel the Torah? Are you going to internalize this? Because it says that by Shavuot we became gerim. We're like newborn people, no past. We all became converts. We have an opportunity this coming Shavuos to totally start from the beginning with tremendous enthusiasm, with tremendous highest, because we have no more past. We're starting fresh. And we have the biggest koiches because the coming Shavuos is going to be the greatest Shavuos that ever happened in the history of the world. The Eibusher should bless us all. We should be makabel the Torah besimcha or bepnimius, meaning internally. We should remember the Shavuos, what I said to Hashem. As a matter of fact, I want to remind everyone, I was once by a Farbrengen. The Rebbe, the later years, the Rebbe would have a Farbrengen the night before Shavuos. And they said then, one of the times, that when the Yidden said Nasa v'Nishma was on Hay Sivan, one day earlier. And the Rebbe said clearly that every one of us should find a moment in that Erev Shavuos. No one has to know about it. It's between you and Hashem. But you got to say to Hashem, Nasa v'Nishma. In Nasa v'Nishma, the Chassidus explains, Nasa v'Nishma is not only I will do before I understand. That's the simple answer. Meaning, Chassidus says something infinitely deeper. Nasa v'Nishma means I'm committing myself to you, then to the commandments. You're my boss. I'm yours. I'm not even going into following the laws. I am yours. In the words of Hasidus, I am mevatel myself to the Baal Haratzain, not to the Ratzin. First, I belong to the Baal Haratzin. So Nasa before Nishma means more than I'll do before I understand. I am yours. I don't even have my own opinion. I don't have my own mood or my feelings. I'm committing myself to you. So this is what we have to work on, especially on Erev Shavuos, based on our Kabbalah's HaTorah on Erev Shavuos. Then Hashem will come and give us the matana, Matan Torah. Everyone should have a wonderful yontif, but all the brachos comes together with the Torah. All the people who aren't well became well. Everybody got healed. All the blessings came on Shavuos. So we all should get all these blessings, begashmius. We should have parnasa ba'achava. We should be healthy and have a lot of nachas from all of our children. And we should be zoiche to the permanent revelation in the time of Mashiach. But Yontif, everyone.